Welcome to Savvy Business, Life Unscripted with your host, Christina Rivera, where our guests share their wisdom and valuable business tips, empowering our audience to expand their personal potential.
Hi, Carnellia, Ajasin. Welcome to Savvy Broadcasting. I'm so grateful to have you here today. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, you betcha. You're going to talk to our audience today about how to know if your product or service is viable for the marketplace. A lot of time we have an idea, but is that product really viable for the marketplace and grow? And is it something they really need? So you are the CEO and founder of Mind Catalyst. I love the name of that business. But share with our audience a little bit about what brought you into this field of helping people bring their products to development.
Well, I've always been in the IT field since college. Undergraduate degree in computer science, graduate degree as well, worked in the technology space, developing products for larger Big Six firm, in working with larger Fortune 500 companies. However, what really brought me to really looking at product-based work that is meaningful and relevant is the notion that I just kind of got tired of just creating and implementing business-related applications for business sake. I wanted to do something that was a little bit more meaningful in producing products and helping others to produce products that had more meaning and more impact in terms of business, education, some of the social realms of how we work and live and be in the world. So that's what brought me to it.
That's awesome. Did you always have a passion for computers? I don't know about you, but my first introduction to computers as a kid, we were doing this ancient, you remember when you put in a couple of code and you get one line on the screen or something, you're like, yay!
Yes. That's fun. Yeah. So my mom actually got me introduced to computer science. And so, like you said, playing Pong and trying to develop a game that was similar to Pong, was something I really was interested in doing when I was in high school. But yes, I was always interested in computers, science. That's kind of STEM person was always something that was inside of me. However, I'm also an artist, very artistic. So I really loved, and I saw the convergence of the two worlds before we had this whole STEAM element acronym that we have nowadays, other than STEM. So I've always seen it as a STEAM acronym as opposed to just one versus the other.
Yeah. What's interesting about it, and I don't think people realize that, and I've heard of people going, we should get rid of the arts. It's just a waste of time. It's like play. But really, there is an interconnection between science and artisticness, because how many doctors have I heard say there's kind of an art to what we do? And my partner, actually, he's not only a pilot, he builds computers on the side for fun.
Yes.
He's also an artist. So they really are kind of interchanged and intertwined with each other. One's not over the other.
They really are, because when you think about an idea, right, when you're thinking about, okay, I have an idea for a software application or a wearable or some sort of technology product, that's a creativity, right, at its best. That's our creativity that's in flow there. It's not less necessarily our complete whole left brain. It's like, I feel, a combination of the whole brain. So it combines the left and the right to kind of come up with the idea and then kind of think it, and then you take your left brain and kind of logically think, okay, how can we make it happen? How can we make it realized? And so you need both sides of your mind to do that.
It's interesting because I've heard scientists say that, it used to be said when we were younger that, there's this part of the brain does this and that part of the brain does that. But really, when they look at things now under, what is it called? Imaging scanners, they actually see the whole brain light up when you see things. It's not just, this brain for that, this. So it's very fast.
Yeah.
Let's get to the part where it's very interesting. Like, you have this wonderful idea for a product that's inside your head. How do you know if it's viable? How do you begin to get it out to the marketplace? Where do they begin?
Well, it's less technical than people think, right? So so when you look at companies like Google and Apple and even Amazon, and I've worked with companies of those sizes and as well as some startups, we typically follow the same platform. It's the same framework even, and that is building out just a subset of your idea, not fully vested into it because you don't want to waste time, money, and energy into that, but just build out a subset of the idea and then test it out with the market space. or test out with a small group of people that are targeted to make sure that, they give you feedback, input, and to kind of help you evaluate the viability of the product. Most people are afraid to put out a product unless it's shiny, it's perfect, it has no kinks. That's really a wrong way to actually do any implementation, because you've already wasted time, money, energy in doing that to get it to that place. And you don't even know if you're going to get the market fit value or buy-in from the people who are going to be actually using it or benefiting from the product. So the best thing for you to do is to get just enough, which is your minimal viable product, and that's the acronym is MVP, out to your targeted market space, or at least a subset of people who would actually find value in your product. Test it with those people. Then get that evaluation, get that feedback, and start tweaking in an iterative fashion to get it to a place where it makes sense for those people who are going to be benefiting from your product.
Well, that's fascinating. I recall this one, now she's a multimillionaire, but I don't remember her name at the present, but she did just that. She does product-based businesses, and she would bring them out. She said, I used to make a sample of it, bring it out to, a particular place where I thought my sample market would be, and say, here's the product. Would you use this? Would this help you? Da, da, da. And, before building 100,000 of them, and then people are like, I don't need that. That's a cute idea, but I ain't going to buy it.
That's right.
So
That's right. Yeah, it does save you a lot of time, money, and energy. And people also forget, we have this, I'd say, almost kind of an egotistical way of looking at things, in that we think, okay, well, I have this idea, so I know everyone else is going to love it. You're the only person in the world who has this idea. And so, no, what really helps is to include other people's ideas and opinions and feedback upon your idea. So when you look at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, some of the known apps that we all use today, they did not look the way they looked 10 years ago, 20 years ago. They did not look that way at all. So what helped those applications to evolve was the input, the evaluation, the feedback that was actually garnered from people like you and I.
Yeah. And then that way, if it maybe just needs a tweak in order to make it viable. It might be that your market, you'll go out there, your sample market will be like, this is great, but it won't work for me because of this reason.
Right.
And it might be just a little tweak that makes it that now, boom, it's something that people could really use. It's so interesting. And then another thing that comes up for me, Carnellia, is that I've had, like when I was a kid, remember the ice cream you get in the school lunches, the little ice cream containers, a teeny one for one. And then I used to buy the chocolate chip cookies. I used to eat them separately. And then me and my friend would be like, well, let's just put them together. So that became a very viable thing in the market called chipwiches. So, sometimes you'll have ideas you'll just keep in your head. Get it out there. Start introducing it and see if it's something that's viable. That's
right. It's funny because when I was a kid, my sister and I used to take when soap is overused, we would take like the little scraps of soaps, and then we would put them all in one jar, and we would fill the jar with water, and then we'd shake it up. Well, that's your your kind of cream soap body wash. And so, like you said, that's something that we didn't think about in terms of an invention, but that's basically what it is. And it's on tons of our shelves in supermarkets and drugstores across the country today. So like you said, even if it's a small idea, it really would behoove you to put that idea in front of some people, some targeted people, to see, what the viability is of that product being launched. Because like you said, most times it really is just a small tweak to make it, turn it from okay to great.
How does Mind Catalyst work with businesses? Like they come to you and they say, okay, this is my idea. Help me find if it's viable for the market. What do you do to help them?
Yeah. So what we do is we help them to finesse their idea. So we do just that. So we say, okay, let's hold your hand and get ready, set, jump. You're going to put this product out to the market space, and we're going to test and evaluate the viability of it. And so what we do is we actually finesse the idea as we get the feedback and input from would-be testers and users from the product. And so when we're doing that, we're actually finessing it on the back end. And so what we want to do is get a really good and really tightened MVP, which is your minimal viable product, out to the market space, and then allowing people to then utilize your MVP from there as your first release.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is fabulous. And it's so important to do this. As you say, I like the word finesse. It's perfect. But it's interesting. Many years ago, there was a guy that came on the show and he had a product, but he didn't want to get it out to the marketplace and give samples out. He's like, well, they're going to have to pay for it because it cost me so much to develop just a sample. I'm like, but dude, you don't know if it's going to serve people. You have to give out samples to get a feedback of what works, what doesn't work. And he didn't want to let that go. And then I think sometimes you have to realize you're going to have to give a little to get something at the back end.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate, but we have this, I don't know what it is, but I do come in that same situation with a lot of clients where they don't want to share their idea within a group setting. It may be like 3 or 4 other entrepreneurs. They're like, well, can I talk to you privately in another room, or can people sign my NDAs? Or, look, the bottom line is that people are not going to steal your idea because of the fact that they're not going to put the emphasis on it the way you would. It's just not going to have the same flavor or style, or brand even that you would have put in on your own. So people don't really, they kind of don't see that process. They kind of think, oh, I want to protect my idea from other people, but it really is not going to happen. The viability of that happening is really slim.
Yeah.
And if it does, then, that person probably had already had that idea or something like that, but it's not usually going to happen where it's someone just heard your idea and, and then now they're off and running and going to manifest that idea.
Well, here's the thing. They have to go through the whole back work and make it happen. How many people have that fascination? Many years ago, I was in corporate America. I wanted to move up to management. I wouldn't want to release my cards and tell anyone. I was scared that they'd want to compete with me and I would ruin my chances to move on up. But really, what it turned out to be, once I became friends with some of my coworkers, were like, hell no, you do it. I want to go home at 5. I have a life. I want to go watch TV, hang out, whatever. They're like, you do management. I don't want that. So you're forgetting that when you put out a product, whatever it is, you might have the passion and the effort to put it out there, but just because someone heard your idea doesn't mean they're going to go through all that pain and whatever to make it happen.
No, it's usually your passion is something that you're putting out there in the world. And it, like I said before, it really doesn't have the same flavor, the same energy behind it than it would if you did it yourself.
Yeah, and here's the best part. Let's say you have a product, an idea, like there's that mop I have that's very interesting that you could take it off and clean it. And I forgot the name of the mop thing, but there's a couple of different types of brands who do the same thing, but slightly different. So the thing is, just because you're coming up with an idea and someone else comes up with the idea doesn't mean, like you said, yours is put forth slightly different that will serve maybe these group of people. It doesn't mean that now I shouldn't do it because his idea is so similar to mine.
Yeah, I oftentimes have to talk clients back into continue on their idea because I say, oh, well, I was looking online yesterday and I noticed that this, other people are doing the same thing. And it's like, well, we look at Apple versus Mac, back in the day, we know that they've always been very different. So, but they do, they have operating systems, they do work, they do the exact same thing, but they do them in very, very different ways. And so the way in which you present your idea to the world would be completely different. And based on your value system, your brand, your taste, all those things matter.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have friends out there who are super Apple fans. That's it. I don't want to touch IBM or PCs, but I've only worked on PCs, so it's comfortable for me. So yeah, there's different products. What you put forth will be good for a group of people, and what someone else put forth will be good for their market. So I love this, Carnellia. This has been such a awesome conversation, but I don't want people to leave how they can find out how they can get their product to market with you. How can they do that?
Sure. They can reach out to me on my website. It's Mind, MIND, Catalyst with a K. That's KATALYST.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're also, just if I can put a plug in, we're actually going to be hosting a beta version of our virtual accelerator that's online. And it will be a 6-week program where we'll actually take you from idea to prototype. So that's your MVP. So we'll take your idea. Let's say you come up with an app idea that you want to put out into the world, but you don't know how to actually go from idea to your MVP. Well, we're actually going to hold your hand and take you through the entire process. And so at the end of that 6 weeks, you'll have your prototype to then launch into the world, or even test with users, even go after venture capital funding if you wanted to at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been so great. Thank you so much, Carnellia, for coming to Savvy Broadcasting today and sharing your great wisdom. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
If you like this episode, please share. To hear more Savvy episodes and Savvy Biz tips, go to lifeunscriptedradio.com. To become a guest or participate in paid sponsorship, email us at Christina@lifeunscriptedradio.com.